Welcome, viewer. Ode to a Nightingale is one of the most famous poems written by the English Romantic poet John Keats. Keats composed this ode in May 1819 and it was first published in 1820. The poem is considered one of Keats' most celebrated works and it is known for its exploration of themes such as the contrast between the fleeting nature of human life and the eternal song of the nightingale, as well as the idea of escaping from the harsh realities of life through imagination and art. In the poem, Keats listens to the song of a nightingale and becomes enchanted by its timeless, joyous melody. He contrasts the bird's immortal song with the transient nature of human existence, expressing a desire to escape the world's troubles and join the nightingale in its blissful state. The poem beautifully captures the romantic notion of the power of art and the imagination to provide solace and transcendence. Now, let us discuss each line of the poem in detail. So, let's begin. My heart aches, and a drowsy numbness pains my sense as though of hemlock I had drunk, or emptied some dull opiate to the drains. 1 minute passed, and Lethe words had sung. 'Tis not through envy of thy happy lot, by being too happy in thine happiness, that thou, light winged dried of the trees, in some melodious plot of beech and green and shadows numberless, singest of summer in full throated ease. My heart aches and a drowsy numbness pains. Here, Keats starts by describing a physical and emotional state. His heart aches, indicating a deep sense of longing or sadness. The drowsy numbness suggests that he feels both physically and mentally sluggish, as if he is in a dreamlike or intoxicated state. My sense as though of hemlock I had drunk. Keats compares his feeling to having consumed hemlock, a deadly poison. This metaphor underscores the idea that his current state is both painful and potentially dangerous, like being poisoned, or emptied some dull opiate to the drains. He extends the metaphor by suggesting that he might have taken a strong and dulling drug, an opiate which further contributes to his sense of numbness and detachment from reality. 1 minute passed, and Lethe words had sung. Keats feels as though he has quickly descended towards the river Lethe, a mythical river in Greek mythology associated with forgetfulness. This line underscores the fleeting nature of his current feelings. It is not through envy of thy happy lot. He clarifies that his state of mind isn't due to jealousy of someone else's happiness. He is not envious of anybody, but being too happy in thine happiness. Instead, he explains that he is overwhelmed by his own happiness. This suggests that the Nightingale song has brought him so much joy that it is almost too much to bear. That thou, light winged dryad of the trees. Keats addresses the nightingale as a light winged dryad, a beautiful and ethereal forest spirit. This description emphasizes the bird's enchanting and otherworldly nature. In some melodious plot, he imagines the nightingale singing in a picturesque and harmonious part of the forest, of beech and green and shadows numberless. He paints a vivid picture of the surroundings with green beech trees and countless shadows, creating a serene and mysterious atmosphere. Singest of summer in full throated ease. The Nightingale song is not just any song, it's a joyful and effortless celebration of summer. This contrasts with Keats' complex emotional state, highlighting the bird's carefree and eternal nature. So, in these lines, Keats masterfully conveys a mix of emotions from pain and numbness to overwhelming happiness. He uses vivid imagery and metaphors to transport the reader into a dreamlike and enchanting forest scene while exploring the contrast between human emotions and the timeless beauty of nature. Now, the second stanza. Oh, for a draught of vintage that hath been cooled a long age in the deep delved earth, tasting of flora and the country green, dance and provincial song and sunburnt mirth. Oh, for a beaker full of the warm south, full of the true, the blushful hippocrene, with beaded bubbles winking at the brim, and purple stained mouth, that I might drink and leave the world unseen, and with thee fade away into the forest deep. Oh, for a draught of vintage that hath been. Keats expresses a strong desire for a drink of aged wine, cooled a long age in the deep delved earth. He longs for wine that has been carefully stored underground for a long time, suggesting a sense of maturity and depth. Tasting of flora and the country green. Keats imagines the wine having a taste that evokes the freshness of nature with hints of flowers and the lush countryside. Dance and provincial song and sunburnt mirth. He envisions this wine as carrying the essence of joyful dances, songs from the Provence region of France, and the carefree happiness associated with sunny days. Oh, for a beaker full of the warm south! He craves a cup filled with the warmth of the southern region, where the climate is sunny and inviting, full of the true, the lustful hypocrite. Keats desires wine that contains the genuine essence of inspiration, often associated with the mythical fountain of Hippocrene, which was said to bring creativity to those who drank from it. With beaded bubbles winking at the brim, he envisions the wine having bubbles that glistens and sparkle at the top of the glass, adding to its allure. And purple stained mouth. This line suggests that the wine would leave a purplish stain on the drinker's lips, symbolizing the sensory and indulgent experience of drinking it. That I might drink and leave the world unseen. Keats desires to consume this wine so he can escape from the world, forget his troubles, and become detached from reality. And with thee fade away into the forest deep. The poet wishes to drink this wine and then join the nightingale in the dim and mysterious forest, essentially seeking to lose himself in the enchanting world of nature and the bird's song. So, in these lines, Keats vividly portrays his longing for a transcendent experience through wine, using rich sensory descriptions to convey the allure of the vintage wine and its power to transport him into a world of beauty and escapism, away from the pains and limitations of human existence. Now, the third stanza. Fade far away, dissolve, and quite forget what thou among the leaves hast never known. The weariness, the fever, and the fret here where men sit and hear each other groan, where palsy shakes a few sad last grey hairs, where youth grows pale and spectre thin and dies, where but to think is to be full of sorrow and leaden eye despairs, where beauty cannot keep her lustrous eyes or new love pine at them beyond tomorrow. Fade far away, dissolve and quite forget. Keats continues to express his desire to escape from the harsh realities of life. He wants to fade away and completely forget about them. What thou among the leaves hast never known. He contrasts the nightingale's blissful existence in the forest, which is free from human troubles, with the burdens and challenges that people face. The weariness, the fever, and the fret. Keats lists three common human afflictions: weariness or tiredness, fever, both physical and emotional, and fret, worry or anxiety. Here, where men sit and hear each other groan, the poet describes the human condition as a place where people sit together and share their pains and sorrows, listening to each other's complaints and suffering, where palsy shakes a few sad, last grey hairs. Keats mentions the elderly afflicted by palsy, a tremor or paralysis, their last years marked by sadness and frailty, where youth grows pale and spectre thin and dies. He paints a bleak picture of youth becoming pale, emaciated, or spectre thin, and ultimately succumbing to death prematurely. Where but to think is to be full of sorrow. Even thinking in this world is enough to bring sadness, suggesting that every aspect of life is filled with suffering. And leaden eyed despairs. People are burdened with heavy despair that weighs them down, making their eyes seem dull and lifeless. Where beauty cannot keep her lustrous eyes. Beauty loses its brightness and allure in this world, unable to maintain its captivating charm. Or new love pine at them beyond tomorrow. Even new love affairs are short lived and filled with longing, with no promise of lasting happiness beyond the next day. In these lines, Keats contrasts the idyllic world of the nightingale with the harsh realities of human existence, highlighting the physical and emotional suffering, the fleeting nature of youth and love, and the pervasive sorrow that defines human life. His longing to escape into the nightingale's world becomes even more pronounced as he describes the contrast. Next stanza. Away, away, for I will fly to thee, not charioted by Bacchus and his parts, but on the viewless wings of poesy. Though the dull brain perplexes and retards, already with thee tender is the night, and happily the queen moon is on her throne, clustered around by all her starry face, but here there is no light, save what from heaven is with the breezes blown, through verdurous glooms and winding mossy ways. Away, away, for I will fly to thee. Keats expresses his strong desire to leave his current reality and go to the Nightingale, suggesting a longing for transcendence, not charioted by Bacchus and his parts. Unlike those who seek escape through alcohol, Bacchus, the god of wine, and his companions, Keats intends to achieve this journey through a different means. But on the viewless wings of poesy, he plans to embark on this journey through the invisible and imaginative power of poetry, emphasizing the creative and transformative potential of art. Though the dull brain perplexes and retards, Keats acknowledges that while the human mind can sometimes be slow and confusing, poetry has the ability to overcome these limitations. Already with thee, tender is the night. He feels as though he is already with the nightingale. The night is described as gentle and tender, creating a peaceful and comforting atmosphere. And happily, the queen moon is on her throne. Keats imagines that the moon, often personified as a queen in the poetry, is in her majestic position in the night sky. Clustered around by all her starry face, he envisions the moon being surrounded by her fairy like attendants, adding a touch of enchantment to the scene. But here there is no light. In contrast to the nightingale's world, Keats' current reality lacks light or brightness. Save what from heaven is with the breezes blown. The only light he can find comes from the stars and the heavenly breezes that rustle through the lush and shadowy paths. Through verdurous glooms and winding mossy ways, Keats describes the environment as full of greenery and shadowy, with winding and covered paths covered in moss. This paints a vivid picture of a mysterious and inviting forest. So, in these lines, Keats expresses his determination to join the nightingale using the transformative power of poetry, emphasizing the contrast between the enchanting world of the bird and the dullness of human existence. His description of the night and the natural surroundings enhances the allure of the nightingale's world. Next stanza. I cannot see what flowers are at my feet, nor what soft incense hangs upon the boughs, but in embalmed darkness guess each sweet, wherewith the seasonable month endows the grass, the thicket, and the fruit tree wild, white hawthorn, and the pastoral eglantine, fast fading violets covered up in leaves, and mid May's eldest child, the coming musk rose, full of dewy wine, the murmurous haunt of flies on summer eves. I cannot see what flowers are at my feet. Keats acknowledges that he cannot see the flowers beneath him, suggesting that he is so absorbed in his thoughts and imagination that he is unaware of his immediate surroundings, nor what soft incense hangs upon the boughs. Similarly, he cannot sense the sweet fragrance that fills the air around him, indicating his detachment from the sensory world. But in embalmed darkness, guess each sweet. Despite not seeing or smelling the flowers, he can imagine and guess each sweet scent in the darkness around him. This emphasizes his reliance on imagination. Wherewith the seasonable month endows. He imagines the fragrances that the current month, that is May, brings to the grass, bushes, and wild fruit trees. The grass, the thicket, and the fruit tree wild. Keats lists the natural elements that are adorned with these sweet scents, including the grass, dense undergrowth, that is thicket, and wild fruit-bearing trees. White hawthorn and the pastoral eglantine. He mentions specific flowers, white hawthorn and eglantine, wild roses, both known for their delicate beauty and pleasant fragrance. Fast fading violets covered up in leaves. Keats visualizes violets which are starting to wither, hidden beneath fallen leaves. This imagery conveys the passage of time and the transience of beauty. At Midway's eldest child, he refers to the musk rose as the eldest child of Midway, indicating that it's one of the earliest and most cherished flowers of the season. The coming musk rose, full of dewy wine. Keats anticipates the arrival of the musk rose, which he envisions as being rich with dewdrops that resemble wine. This adds to the sensory richness of his imagination. The murmurous haunt of flies on summer eves. He suggests that the musk rose is a favorite spot for flies on summer evenings, emphasizing the idea of it being a lively and inviting place. So, in these lines, Keats continues to emphasize the power of his imagination and the sensory richness of his inner world. He imagines the scents of flowers and the beauty of nature even in the darkness, highlighting the poet's ability to transcend his immediate surroundings and find beauty in the world of his own creation. Next stanza. Darkling I listen, and for many a time I have been half in love with easeful death. Called him soft names in many amused rhyme to take into the air my quiet breath. Now more than ever seems it rich to die, to seize upon the midnight with no pain. While thou art pouring forth thy soul abroad in such an ecstasy, still wouldst thou sing, and I have ears in vain to thy high requiem become a sword. Darkling I listen, and for many a time. Keats listened to the Nightingale song in the darkness of night, emphasizing his deep and prolonged connection with this experience. I have been half in love with easeful death. He reveals a significant admission. At various times, he has found himself drawn to the idea of a peaceful and painless death. This suggests a fascination with the idea of escaping life's hardships. Called him soft names in many amused rhyme. Keats has written poems and used gentle and comforting language to describe death as if it were a kind and inviting presence. To take into the air my quiet breath. He envisions death as a gentle force that would peacefully take his last breath. Now more than ever seems it rich to die. At this moment, he feels that the idea of dying is more appealing than ever before. To seize upon the midnight with no pain. He envisions a death that occurs quietly and without suffering, like fading away in the midnight darkness. While thou art pouring forth thy soul abroad, as the nightingale continues to sing with great passion and ecstasy, in such an ecstasy, the bird sings with incredible joy and intensity, contrasting with Keats' contemplation of death. Still wouldst thou sing, and I have ears in vain. The nightingale continues to sing, but Keats feels that his ability to appreciate its song is in vain or futile. To thy high requiem become a sword. Keats concludes by acknowledging that he would rather become one with the earth, a sword, and cease to exist than listen to the nightingale's beautiful but fleeting song. This highlights the intensity of his longing to escape the human condition and the ephemeral nature of life. In these lines, Keats grapples with the contrasting desires of embracing the nightingale's eternal and beautiful song and seeking release from the burdens of human existence through death. The stanza ends on a note of profound longing and contemplation of life's transience. Next, thou wast not born for death, immortal bird. No hungry generations tread thee down. The voice I heard this passing night was heard in ancient days by emperor and clown. Perhaps the self-same song that found a path through the sad hearth of Ruth when sick for home. She stood in tears amid the alien corn, the same that oft times hath charmed magic's casements opening on the foam of perilous seas in fiery lands forlorn. Thou wast not born for death, immortal bird. Keats addresses the nightingale as immortal, suggesting that it exists beyond the realm of mortality. He believes the bird is not subject to death like humans. No hungry generations tread thee down. Unlike humans who are eventually consumed by death and replaced by new generations, the nightingale is untouched and untroubled by such cycles. The voice I hear this passing night was heard. Keats reflects on how the song he hears from the nightingale tonight is not unique to this moment. In ancient days by emperor and clown, the nightingale song has been heard and appreciated by people of all social classes throughout history, from emperors to commoners. Perhaps the self-same song that found a path. He suggests that the very same song may have once consoled the heart of Ruth, a biblical figure, when she was far from home in a foreign land. Through the sad heart of Ruth when sick for home. Ruth is known for her story of longing for her homeland, and Keats imagines that the nightingale's song could have comforted her in her sadness. She stood in tears amid the alien corn. Ruth's tears in a foreign field symbolize her homesickness and sorrow, and the nightingale's song could have provided solace, the same that oft times hath This same song has often had the power to work its magic. Charmed magic casements opening on the foam. It has the ability to enchant and open imaginary windows, perhaps to dreamlike scenes of sea foam, or perilous seas in fairy lands forlorn. This imagery evokes the idea of the song, transporting listeners to dangerous and enchanted places lost in the world of fairy tales. So, in these lines, Keats emphasizes the timeless and universal appeal of the Nightingale song. He suggests that the bird's music has a power to transcend time and space, bringing comfort and enchantment to people from all walks of life and even reaching into the realms of myth and fantasy. Final stanza. Forlorn, the very word is like a bell to toll me back from thee to my soul self. Adieu, the fancy cannot cheat so well as she is famed to do, deceiving elf. Adieu, adieu, thy plaintive anthem fades, past the near meadows, over the still stream, up the hillside, and now 'tis buried deep. In the next valley glades, was it a vision or a waking dream? Fled is that music, do I wake or sleep? Forlorn, the very word is like a bell. Keats uses the word forlorn to describe his sense of desolation or loneliness. He compares this word to a tolling bell, which serves as a signal or reminder to toll me back from thee to my soul self. The word forlorn acts as a reminder, pulling him back from the enchantment of the Nightingale song to his own self awareness and solitude. Adieu, the fancy cannot cheat so well. He says goodbye to the nightingale and acknowledges that his imagination or fancy can't deceive him as effectively as it's known to do, like a mischievous elf. As she is famed to do, deceiving elf, Keats personifies his own imagination as a tricky and deceptive elf like creature known for creating illusions. Adieu, adieu, thy plaintive anthem fades. He bids farewell to the nightingale as its sorrowful song diminishes. Past the near meadows, over the still stream, the song drifts away, moving beyond the nearby meadows and the quiet, tranquil stream. Up the hillside, and now it is buried deep. The music continues to fade, ascending the hillside, and eventually it becomes deeply buried in the valleys below. In the next valley glades, the nightingale song disappears into the valleys, echoing through the glades. Was it a vision or a waking dream? Keats questions whether the experience he had listening to the nightingale was a vivid vision or merely a dream he experienced while awake. Played is that music, do I wake or sleep? He realizes that the enchanting music has vanished and he is left in uncertainty, questioning if he is now awake or still in a dreamlike state. In these concluding lines, Keats grapples with the fleeting nature of beauty and the power of the nightingale song to transport him to a different state of consciousness. The poem ends with a sense of ambiguity and introspection, leaving the reader to ponder the boundary between reality and the world of imagination.